For weeks, Keir Starmer and his Labour cronies have been absolutely insistent that the Prime Minister must resign. He must go. The country must be plunged into chaos in the middle of a European war and a cost of living crisis because his staff presented him with a cake that never left its Tupperware container in 2020.
Was there, then his position's untenable.
We're waiting for the Prime Minister to look into his heart and soul and decide whether or not he has a scrap of human decency in him. Because if he does, he will resign. You, in the end, are the Prime Minister, and you should take responsibility for what you are responsible for. And you should resign. He should resign now. What he really ought to do, if he had any soul, was that he would say, I can't face an ordinary meeting with the Queen. I must go to Buckingham Palace, make a profound apology and resign.
We don't need an investigation. He needs to go.
The Prime Minister has been forced to hand an apology to Her Majesty the Queen. Isn't he ashamed that he didn't hand in his resignation at the same time? So since he acknowledges the ministerial code applies to him, will he now resign? The British public aren't fools. They never believed a word of it. They think the Prime Minister should do the decent thing and resign. I think he should resign.
The ministerial code, which he puts his name on and signs, is very clear. Any minister who knowingly misleads Parliament has to resign.
The ministerial code says that ministers who knowingly mislead the House should resign. Yeah. Why is he still here?
He's broke his own laws and he knows that he should resign.
OK, yep, we get the point. So surely, those same standards must apply to Mr Starmer if the Durham police discover he too broke the lockdown rules a year later. Well, for some reason, the leader of no opposition wouldn't commit to holding himself to the same lofty standards when asked the question by ITV's political editor, Robert Peston, last night.
The Tory MP who want the Durham Constabulary to look again at the beer drinking that you were doing in the City of Durham Labour office on April the 30th, 2021. They think that you breached the COVID rules. You've got anything to hide if the Durham police look at it again?
Well, Robert, I was asked about this very many times in the media several months ago. No rules were broken, and I'd gently point out to Tory MPs that the police have looked into this and established no rules for broken. I understand why they're trying to sling mud just at the moment, but as I say, I don't think there's very much I can add to that.
But just to be absolutely clear, you've said the Prime Minister should resign. In the event, and you say it's highly unlikely, but in the event that you received a fine, you'd obviously resign.
Well, Robert, no rules were broken, and as I said, gently point out, I understand what Tory MPs are doing because of the mess that they're in with the Prime Minister, who's not only been found to have broken the law himself, been fined himself for the laws that he made, but over 50 fines for Downing Street, which I think it makes it probably the most fined workplace in the country. So I understand what they're doing, but, you know, as I say, gently point out, the police have looked at this, there were no rules broken, and that really is the end of the matter.
You hope so. But just note there that Keir didn't actually commit to resigning if he is found to have broken the rules. In fact, it's interesting because over the last couple of days, he suddenly doesn't want to talk about Partygate at all. No doubt because much more is emerging about beers with Keir, the event in Hartlepool that is so obviously worse than anything Boris Johnson got up to while working with his staff at number 10 Downing Street. The Daily Mail revealed a host of sensational details about the event on April the 30th last year, including a 43-second video. So it shows Starmer in the office of Labour MP for the City of Durham, Mary Foy, laughing, chatting to colleagues, and yes, taking swigs from a bottle of beer. Now, apparently, in a total coincidence, Labour officials in the area decided that very night to hold a, quote, quiz and social, an event in which Starmer has denied participating. Now, you'll remember the inhumane and ludicrous rules at the time, which I campaigned against, but Starmer fully embraced, said you must not socialise indoors except with your household or support bubble. Local election workers were also told you should not meet with other campaigners indoors. Meetings to organise and plan campaigns should be held online or over the phone. They should not take place in person. So As far as I can see, Mr. Starmer is bang to rights. Durham's Deputy Chief Constable Karen Irvine has replied to a letter sent by local Tory MP Richard Holden, pledging to speak to investigators about the new information, raising hopes that the case could be reopened. And as the Culture Secretary and Boris loyalist Nadine Dorries said, Keir Starmer has used every trick in the book to attack the PM over his handling of events at Number 10. Yet he doesn't want to be held to the same standard the PM has subjected himself to. He's a hypocrite who should fess up to what really happened in Durham and explain why he thinks it's any different to the hyperbole he levelled at the PM. Now, the fact is that Keir Starmer was boozing indoors with his friends, something that was quite clearly banned by the lockdown regulations, which he vigorously supported. He has said this beer swilling took place in between meetings, which means there's zero difference between that incident and Boris being presented a birthday cake. Well, actually, no, there is one difference. Boris and the Chancellor Rishi Sunak didn't drink a drop of booze at the event in question. Of course, this isn't the only example of police, media and political hypocrisy over our leaders and COVID rule breaches. Nicola Sturgeon, you'll remember, was let off by Scottish police earlier this month despite brazenly breaking the mask laws she inflicted on her people. It's become abundantly clear to me that there's one rule when it involves trying to force a democratically elected Prime Minister from office, and quite another when it involves leaders of the opposition parties or devolved nations.